Thielfoldt, and today I have a Longarm Lifeline all about needles. I brought with me a diagram that shows up close what actually makes up a needle. I got this off of the YLI website, and as you notice here in the diagram, there are some things that we want to pay attention to. One is this front groove. This runs the whole length of the front of the needle up to the eye. And the other really important thing is this scarf. Now you may be familiar with this when it comes to loading the needle into the machine, but it also has another function, and that is actually how it makes the stitch. So let's talk about some needles specifically. I brought with me a selection of needles today, and I want to talk about a lot of the information that's on the needle packages. So you notice there's a bunch of numbers on here, and really the most important one that we're going to pay attention to is this one right here, this 3.0. And as I move along, you'll see that the size is different. This is a 5.0, and then I have a 4.0, 3.5, and a 3.0. This one here is a 3.0 and this is a 5.0, and you can see there's a huge difference in the size of both of those needles. There are also different manufacturers of needles, and I brought a couple examples with me today. This particular one is a titanium needle. You can tell by the gold label. Again, you'll note the size. And you might wonder why titanium is important. Well, based on my experience, I find that titanium needles are stronger, they break less, and they stay sharp longer. There is one other actual really important piece of information on this needle package, and that is this letter here, SAN. That stands for Special Application Needle. And that's important because the long arm goes in every single direction. And so the Special Application Needle was designed specifically for long arms so that it can handle all of that multi-directional sewing that we're going to be doing. There is one more needle that I need to show you, and that is this one right here. This is, you can see right there the word on there, ball. That stands for a ballpoint, and I would use this on, say, a t-shirt quilt, something that has some knits. That will make it a little easier to go through, puncture that fabric. So we've talked about all these different sizes, and you may be wondering, okay, Linda, I've got all these options, I've got all these packages of needles, now what do I do? Well, we need to get those out of the way. Let's get back to our needle here. Now remember, we talked earlier about a couple things you need to pay attention to on the needle. This example here has got a really small needle and a really big needle. But I think you can see there is a groove on the front of that needle, and that is very important, as is, if I turn this to the side, you can see the scarf. Now this groove is actually where the thread lays as it's making a stitch. And you might be saying, well, why does that matter, Linda? Well, you notice here I have some different threads. I have a really fine thread here. This happens to be bottom line by Superior. And this is a thicker thread. And then this is an even finer, but you probably can barely see it, a silk thread. So the goal is, when you're trying to choose a needle, is to match the size of the thread to the size of the groove in the needle shaft. So, for example, if I was to try and use this thicker thread with this very small needle, there isn't enough room in that groove for this thread to actually lay nicely. So I might want to choose a larger needle. That's going to minimize thread breakage and tension issues. My personal favorite, and the one that I think minimizes some of the issues you have with thread, is a titanium 4.0 SAN. And the thread that I would most often use with this particular needle is just your regular quilting cotton thread, which is probably the one that you use most often. So now I want to show you the proper way to install the needle in the machine. So we're going to remove the needle, loosening our set screw. You may want to use your screwdriver or your Allen wrench, whatever your machine requires, and remove the dull needle. Now, when you go to install the needle, you want to have the scarf to the back. And if it is a little challenge to get it in there, then I would like to grab hold of it with my hemostats and use that as a little tool, because it's going to hold it nice and secure. So once you have it in there and you've tightened your set screw, now I tighten it just enough so that it doesn't fall out, then I remove my hemostats. And you may not have it exactly straight, you know, which is really, really important. So that's where the little piece of paper comes into play. You want to put the piece of paper behind the needle, and then I like to get down eye level with it, looking at the needle. I can see the front of the needle. I want to make sure that that groove is perfectly straight and lined up with the needle bar. Then I take the piece of paper and I put it off to the side, and I look through the side of the needle, or along the side view, and I can see if that scarf is actually lined up properly. Once I know that the needle is in properly, then I can take my screwdriver or my Allen wrench and I can tighten it down so that it won't fall out when I'm sewing, which is very important. Don't forget that step. I hope this information has been helpful. I'm Linda Thielfoldt, and remember, Gammill helps you realize your dream.